So things not to do if you're operating a business in Texas and you get sideways with the comptroller. If you forget to file your public information report and your annual franchise tax due report, it's not that hard to get reinstated. What you need to do is, it depends on how long the company's failed to report. If years and years and years have gone by, there may be some financial penalty owed. To get caught up with your annual reporting, you will have to do all of the annual reporting that you missed and make those disclosures to the comptroller about what the corporation failed to report. Usually what happens is somebody has a small business, they let that small business go dormant because they go into business with someone else, or maybe they go back to work for an employer, something of that nature, and then that small business has become dormant. They want to revive it for some reason later down the road, and there you go. You owe the state 7 years of reports plus some fee to get the company back in good standing. It's not an insignificant fee, but it's not a significant fee. Usually under $200 or $300. I've never seen it much more than that. I guess it would depend on how long that company's been dormant and whether or not that company failed to report actual earnings over the years. Now, failing to report actual earnings over the years and continuing to operate, that could open up some taxation issues. But again, you know, that's that public information report and no tax due threshold that I talked about earlier, which is that $1.1 million cutoff. So if all that happened was failure to file public information reports and failure to file no tax due, you're not looking at a big problem. If there were taxes due, that could be a bigger problem, and you may have to work out some arrangement with the state of Texas for the money that they should have been paid over the time while there was no reporting going on. Now, one thing I will tell you, that the comptroller and the attorneys, well, let me get into that for a second. The comptroller is represented by the Texas Attorney General's office in Austin, Texas, and they are a sophisticated group of tax lawyers. There is a whole host of tax litigation going on in Travis County, Austin, Texas, and in fact, most of the court's dockets in Austin involve tax issues. So there are some great lawyers down there. If you're ever in a fight with a Texas Attorney General and the Comptroller's office over a taxation issue, what I would recommend is be proactive, make a phone call. Don't ignore a comptroller's tax due letter, because that is where problems can begin to snowball, because penalties and interest, just like with the Internal Revenue Service, snowball with the state of Texas taxing authority, the comptroller's office. So the comptroller will normally, when there's a tax issue, send a tax due demand letter. And a lot of times this occurs in any number of scenarios, but basically where there's a record of a lot of sales receipts and no money being paid to the comptroller for the taxes that should have been collected. And one thing you've got to remember, depending on what kind of business you're in, but especially if you're in the retail food or beverage sales business, the comptroller is owed money, and the business owner is essentially in a position of trust. They are a trustee to the state of Texas to collect those taxes and give those taxes to the comptroller on a regular basis. So don't forget that, and make sure you have some mechanisms in place to render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's.